Welcome to UX Evolved. I'm Eric Ellis, and today we're diving into a conversation that bridges the gap between process innovation and AI reality. 2 years before ChatGPT became the AI darling of every design team, Whitney Tolley was already calling out a problem hiding in plain sight.
A lot of times designers, we tend to hold back ideas that we have until we feel like they're really polished. And that can take a really long time to get to your first point of feedback.
The Double Diamond Framework. The framework that practitioners love was secretly turning our agile teams back into waterfall. She wrote about it. She fixed it at Cloudbeds. And now, as AI accelerates everything we do, her solution has become essential survival strategy. Today, she leads design teams that use AI not as a replacement for human judgment, but as a collaborative partner for faster iteration, better synthesis, and real-time strategic pivots. When her workshop agenda became irrelevant halfway through day one, AI helped her redesign day two in 30 minutes flat. When customer research sits in thousands of recorded conversations, AI helps her find human insights that shape what they build. This isn't a conversation about whether AI will replace UX designers. It's about how the best practitioners are already evolving their craft to harness machine speed while doubling down on uniquely human skills. If you're wondering how to navigate this AI transformation without losing what makes you a valuable designer, Whitney's got answers. So let's dive in. Whitney, welcome to UX Evolved. You and I go back several companies. And I actually kind of want to start with that. You have a very interesting background. I'd say maybe a unconventional one from a designer's perspective. You've gone from a technical project manager to a product manager, and then crossed the chasm, if you will, crossed the forbidden zone into UX, and became a designer and a design manager. Now you're a design director at Cloudbeds. Let's look back at that journey. What experiences, what skills from your project management days shape how you lead as a UXer today?
Yeah, it's definitely been unconventional, but it's been extremely intentional. Like, I even wrote a Medium article about my career roadmap and like how to create a career roadmap. That just proves like I have a product management at heart. I created a roadmap for my career. But one of the things that I had acknowledged early on was my lack of ability to manage projects and how that would hold me back. So I specifically took a project management job to fill that gap. And I quickly learned that like some of my skill sets, which I would consider empathy and visual communication, like really served in that role really well. And also in product management, just being able to like empathize with like your users, which as a project manager, it's your stakeholders, it's the people that you work with day to day, but then be able to visually communicate the types of questions that they'd have, like the answers to those questions in a way that they can comprehend easily. And to me, that was always best to do visually.
Is
So I
that
would say
where
those
I
all
was going to say? Is that
transferred.
where the inkling of UX having being interested in UX kind of came from? That idea to the desire that you had to visualize the solution,
Yeah.
and maybe not be able to do that from a purely project or product management point of view.
Yeah, I got introduced to user experience design as a project and product manager working with those teams, but I had my undergrad in graphic design. So more of like your traditional graphic design, creating more marketing type visuals. So I'd had a background in doing visual design, and I used that skill set in the project management, product management roles. And that's where I got introduced to working with UX teams and just being like, I want to do what you guys do. Like, you guys talk to customers more than I get to, and I feel like that's where the real value lies.
What advice might you give to those who are in product management today that maybe have interest in crossing over like you have? Like, is that still a thing you have to do now in today's day and age? Or is it really just look, no, they're actually just facets of what we do in user experience you can bring to your own role today?
Yeah, I think we're gonna start to see even more of these type of roles combine. So
Hmm.
product management, UX UI. I mean, even UX UI is a blended role. So we're going to start to see even more blended roles. And I think that's going to be because of tools like AI emerging, that's allowing people to start to do things that they weren't maybe a specialist in, but now they have a partner that's helping them to like skill up in those areas.
Now, you've spent significant time at Rosetta Stone, Front Gate Tickets, Life Size. These are all different industries. They're dealing with very complex user flows, stakeholder management. Tell me about that from a cross industry experience preparation perspective. You're now in hospitality. I have the background is where we spent a lot of our time together, such a human centered space. I got to imagine that having that multidisciplinary or multi sector background has prepared you well in hospitality.
Yeah, I love to learn, so just throwing me into like completely new and different worlds with different user types has been really fulfilling for me. But I do love working in hospitality because these are people who are also experiential driven because they have to provide really great guest traveler experiences. So they kind of get it. They speak our language a little bit. So I've found that that's been extremely rewarding, but yeah, having a diverse background and working from like language learning solutions for like students in the educational space to Front Gate Tickets, which is all about like fun music festival experiences and like really optimizing your festival operations. And then Life Size, which was a Zoom competitor doing video communications for businesses. Very different worlds, but being able to take the skill set of listening to customers, packaging what they're saying into compelling stories, prioritizing those things into what's the most important things for us to be delivering upon, and then getting those things delivered. Those skill sets translated across any field that you're in.
You're leading me along here. We had a conversation just before the recording here, and we were talking about what a weird time that we're in right now. Not just macro, not when you're just looking at what AI does at 100,000 feet, but literally right now of companies who are really not even sure how to spend capital because the mix of a SaaS team is so rapidly altering and evolving that it's not only changing the way in which they're delivering product, it's changing what kinds of products they deliver and what the team mix needs to be to deliver it. You wrote an article, and I'll post it along with this episode of the double diamond model, the tried and true double diamond model that UXers have been at. Oh gosh, how long has it been? Maybe not 20 years, but seems like that long. You wrote it a few years ago, and you were talking about how that model, while fundamentally sound enough, it often ends up in this kind of sluggish waterfall. It's like waterfall in disguise. And in this world where we're moving towards AI acceleration, if you looked back at the piece that you wrote, what was it that you were trying to get to? This kind of double diamond meets agile. And now that things are even more accelerated, would you rewrite any of it if you had to rewrite it today, or is it still valid from 2 years ago?
I mean, yeah, AI changes a lot of things, but I think the core concept I was trying to get across with that article still stands true, and that is I was trying to convey to UX practitioners that we need to stop thinking about the double diamond as one large step-by-step process that you would take for a project from start to finish, and instead start to see it as a tool in your tool belt that you can pull out at any point during a project and use those tenets of divergent and convergent thinking to solve any problem at any stage during the project. So like breaking it down into smaller steps. But yeah, with the advancements of AI and technology, I see that we could use it more often, and we can even have AI be a seat at the table and helping to also generate ideas and to synthesize like what ideas have merit, where we might have some blind spots. Just take quicker action, because a lot of these types of collaborative workshops suffer from nothing happens. You do these collaborative workshops and everyone feels really good about contributing, and sometimes that's the value in and of itself. But then everyone questions like, well, what came of that? What did we do with that? And I think AI can really help with like, these are the next steps. These are the things that we're doing.
I've certainly been a part of them, and I've certainly been guilty of leading the ones that kind of became
Me
shelfware. And
too.
I think you're right. It almost like it just kind of sits there because the synthesis never happened, or
Mhm.
the will to go test something in near real life wasn't there, or the effort wasn't corralled and pushed forward. So it sounds to me like what you're saying is rather than using AI simply to just generate anything and go, rather you can use AI to make the agile plus double diamond model happen, just happen with more often and with more iteration.
Yeah, and it can help you with those things that you're just not doing because you might not just have time for it. Like if you just led a collaborative workshop and you didn't document, hey, here's the next steps that we're taking from and the value of it, it can get lost and people can that's where the narrative starts of these workshops are a waste of time. But if you can use AI to be like, help me write a compelling Slack message that like recaps what we just did and gets people excited about how we spent that time and what we're doing next, I think it can really help with those things that we're just not doing because we don't have time to do. And there's value in doing those things. And I also see AI as being a really great sounding board that designers should be using to help speed up feedback loops. So a lot of times designers like we tend to hold back ideas that we have until we feel like they're really polished, and that can take a really long time to get to your first point of feedback. So AI can be a really great sounding board for you to like feel more confident in what you're proposing, get to that first concept and that first draft, and then pitch it.
I gotta believe that the front side of that too, the importance of research continuing even after shipping, with AI potentially changing user behavior patterns faster than ever before. How are you adapting to those same research cadences? Are you using AI in a way to get at the heart of the problem or identify the true humanistic need to help inform those rapid double diamond iterations?
Yeah, I am obsessed with AI. I feel like, and that's probably why you're talking to me about AI and UX specifically, is because I'm just obsessed with learning as much as I possibly can, and I'm finding that AI is such a great way to get answers to research questions. It depends on how it's been tooled though. So luckily we work at Cloudbeds in a fully remote environment. And so the benefit of that is that all of our communication is captured digitally. So whether it's Slack communications through chat or it's a Zoom call with customers, everything is captured digitally, which makes it so much easier if we have those files stored somewhere for us to use things like Notebook LM to go through and get direct insights into our questions that we might have and
Yeah.
translate that into like our specific needs.
Yeah, hospitality, you mentioned cloud beds. Hospitality is such a fundamentally human industry. People are
Mhm.
traveling, not bots. They're the ones experiencing the new places. They're the ones that are needing help, that are desiring comfort. Talk to me a little bit about, I don't want to go too far into the hospitality sector, but tell me what you're finding with AI and hospitality. How do you balance AI efficiency, but at the same time manage that human touch for your customers or for your customers' guests? Maybe you can share an insight or a nugget from the space that maybe has surprised you, something that's reminded you why the human side matters even as AI gets better at recognition.
Yeah, I emphasize the technology a lot, but one of the core tenets, the most important part of it is the human generated content that it is helping to look through and provide some translation layer into what it all means. So without that human generated content, the AI is just completely useless. So we need that, and there are some elements too that just can't replace that direct human interaction. I think we did a research project one time on a new feature, new groups module, And we were talking to a customer, a hotelier who works in a back office. And she was telling us how she was helping answer our research questions that we had in the script prepared. But between those research questions, she was sharing some additional insights. Like the phrase that she said was, "You guys have to understand that I'm not a computer person. I'm a people person. That's why I got into this job." We didn't ask her a question that led her to say that, but that was information that she provided to us. And so if you just use AI to do your research, then you're only going to get answers to the scripted questions. You're not going to get those extra human provided stories that really shape what you end up designing.
You're bringing back the empathy side of UX, which I wholeheartedly agree. I wonder too, as I've been doing this through the years, that especially at formative stages of a product or feature, the usability side of what you're trying to get at might not be quite as important as the essence, the value, the product side. And it then forces you at research to ask broader questions and to truly understand, walk a
Mhm.
mile before asking questions of moving pixels around on a screen. Have you found that to be true as well?
Yeah, I've seen that as well. And I think that's a skill set that we're going to start to see more of that we need when we're hiring within design teams is that ability to get to more of like the persona, the pains gains types questions, and not just, could you figure out how to use it? Like we've got to get beyond that. We've got to get to the heart because if we stick to just the surface level and usability aspects, those are the parts that are going to be easily replaced by AI. AI is already able to look at your design system and start to build out layouts and use your component library. So if we continue to see ourselves as just UI generators, then we'll find ourselves replaced.
100%. Are there other skill sets or mindsets beyond the empathy side or the product understanding side, as opposed to just UX, that you look for when you're bringing
Yeah.
on new talent?
There's always going to be the core things that we're going to need on the team. Like we're going to still look for people with a really strong eye for design and good aesthetics. Like that's just not going to go away. They need to be the person who's sitting at the table and can help check the AI when maybe it's providing some recommendations that go against heuristics. Always going to be looking for someone who conveys kind of our team culture, which is strong empathy, no ego, very collaborative. So those are going to be things that are going to remain the same, and I don't see those going away. But new skills is going to be comfort with not having a defined role, or comfort with the ability to stretch outside of your specialization. So if you come in and you're a strong UI designer, you have to be comfortable with potentially talking to customers and asking these questions, drafting some personas, helping to create some really strong quality content that we can feed to AI, and the AI can help with providing better recommendations.
You mentioned this a little bit, and I've noticed it as well. You mentioned visual design, for example. I too have been looking for that as well, and maybe because I keep looking at such AI washed representations of things
Mhm.
that the creativity keeps getting stripped away further and further and further,
Yeah.
because what AI gives you in its initial set of recommendations, it does a really good job at strawman. It doesn't do a great job at aesthetic. And
Yeah.
I fear that maybe those without the visual point of view won't take it any further than that. They actually won't go into creative modality. They'll only stick with what AI gives you. What are your
Yeah.
thoughts on that?
That's so funny that you mentioned that because it just came up in a team meeting where one of the designers on the team had brought up how he felt that there wasn't anything really inspiring coming out. Like it used to be like, Apple would come out with this new like UI pattern, or Google would come out with this new UI pattern that was like you'd take a look at it and be inspired and then think, I'm gonna try to work this into my designs. And that we're not seeing much of that these days. We're just seeing repetitions of the same patterns. And so I think we're going to need designers to help push the envelope a little bit and be strategic about choosing those areas in which they should push the envelope. So
That's a
if it's not worth pushing the envelope,
right.
then don't waste your calories trying to be innovative just for the sake of innovation. Pick the things that are strategic.
Imagine a world where the MVP is not your target. I know that's frustrating to
Mhm.
so many product managers and design leads where the march is to the MVP and nothing else happens beyond it. But imagine if the MVP was almost automated and it was really your thought leadership going to the next evolution beyond the MVP because you know that the output of that and the feedback is going to be right enough to get the snowball to go downhill.
Yeah. And maybe AI can be great for that. AI can get you to your MVP so that you're not spending your creative calories on the bare minimum and you instead can be steps ahead.
Now, you've managed through some agile transformations, new tech adoption, industry changes. We've talked about this a little bit, but tell me about those who are already under you, not those you're hiring, but those who are actively trying to navigate this world of uncertainty and change. Any advice you have for them as they're just trying to do their job, but at the same time trying to figure out what the heck their job is going forward?
Yeah. And we're in this place right now where we have the opportunity to shape what the future looks like. So I think I love my team because they have the right mindset. And I think that's really important. But if you have someone on your team who's just uncomfortable with change, that has just been like, I do UI and I do UI really well. What do you mean I have to start like expanding into UX or using a different tool set or a different process to deliver my excellent designs faster? If you got someone on your team like that, then you've just got to help coach them on like the same ways that they learn their skill set, provide them the tools, provide them the coaching, and hopefully the light bulb moment will come up, like help them realize like I should be
Hmm.
using this instead of it, just change my ways.
I think about those who are at the kind of the senior end of their career. I'd probably say I'm headed in that direction, you know. But then you also kind of have the mid-career UX professionals, 5-ish, 10-ish years. They're starting to feel a little anxious. Some I've heard try to go the managerial route, not because they really aspire to be managers, but from a standpoint of protection that perhaps if they're in a more influential role at a leadership position that they'll kind of stave off the predicted or projective losses that we hear so many tech leaders tell us is coming. Do you agree with that? What's the right way to coach those who are they're not senior, they're not in their twilight years, and they're not starting out. They're right there in the middle.
Yeah, I mean I'm right there in the middle too, and I definitely feel that it's definitely an interesting transition right now to be going through, like middle management, what's next and how to get there and how is AI going to change all of this. But to me, I feel like AI is really designed for people in middle management
Mm.
more so than anyone. I could be biased though because I use it for my purposes, but I really see it as just another element that you provide direction to. You provide really clear prompts to it for what you want and what you expect it to deliver. It's just faster at delivering a lot of times. And so I think if you embrace the technology and you use it to your advantage and you see like, hey, this helps me sharpen my ability to provide direction. I have to provide it clearly if I want good results. And then I have to be capable of looking at those results and providing it feedback of what to do better, what is working. Then it's only going to make you stronger in that role. And then you can deliver more. So it's just thinking about where do you provide value and how can you provide that value faster?
Yeah, well said. I even think about things that maybe prohibited us from doing something at a more, I don't know, higher fidelity level that we really we could have done, but it would have been so difficult to do a prototype with iterations and branches and states and conditions that you just would you drive yourself crazy trying to create that in Figma. But if you can go straight to Claude Code and have it create a simple web app with stubbed out data, not requiring an engineer to build it for you, but
Yeah.
that's your engineering co-pilot, all of a sudden you've led yourself perhaps to some richer product research that you would have not otherwise been able to do without it.
Yeah. And not even just, I mean, you're touching on how it can help bridge the gap between like UI to delivery with
Mm.
the overlap that we're seeing now with its ability to help generate code faster. But even at the forefront, like before you're even kicking off a project and you're just in the brainstorming process, like that's where us in kind of that middle management layer tend to live, is shaping the fog and choosing what's the most valuable things for us to be embarking upon as a company. AI can really help you there too. I was just in a planning workshop where we had planned out activities for a 2-day workshop to collaborate on some strategic initiatives. And day one, we quickly realized that the output of day one's exercises was going to make day two's exercises that we had planned not relevant or maybe a waste of time. And back in the old days, I don't want to say old days, 2 years ago days before AI, we would have just stuck with it. We would have just said like, no, this is what we planned, and we just got to trust the process and just hope that we can get to great results over this. But I was in the middle of this workshop and chatting with Gemini AI about the types of information that we were seeing come out of the workshop so far, and brainstorming on like what type of activities could we do tomorrow. We have 6 hours. How would you do exercises over 6 hours? And going back and forth with it. So over a 30-minute period of time, we had a completely new agenda for the next day. And so that was inspiring confidence of like, we can walk into day two and we can get better outcomes from that than say 2 years ago, where we would have just said, we've just got to stick to what we planned and hope that it will work out.
Yeah, it was baked. We did all the printouts. We have all of the paper and the markers, and come hell or high water, we're going to complete it.
Yeah. So I mean, there's just ways that we can use it. We don't have to be afraid of like, oh, AI is going to replace us. It's if say, figure out how to use it and do your job better.
So let's actually talk about your job. Let's talk about your career a little bit. Think about your own career progression. We talked a little bit of where you're in that kind of middle stage of design leadership, and I'm sure you've been thinking about your future as well, and not in terms of like who you work for, but like what you are, what you bring to this world in your role. You've built this unique foundation. You've spanned project management, product, design leadership. Where do you see yourself heading next? What interests you the most about the future?
I always wanted to get into a small startup. I think if you look at my Medium article about my career roadmap, I talk about how my dream ambition was to start like a small team where we just created solutions that were built to sell. So built to scale, or not built to scale, built to sell.
Mm.
Because that's where I feel like my specialization has always been. It's like get an MVP out because you know there's a market need and nothing there for it. You listen to customers to get it right, and then we do it over and over again. And I think I've always felt like, it's too risky of an endeavor to like really embark upon that. I need to build up my skill set and get some experience under the hood with all these companies in these different areas. And now I feel like what could be next, and with AI to help. I think about the latest South Park episode where Randy is talking to AI about his business ideas, and AI is just hyping him up of
Yeah.
that's such a great idea. AI totally does that to me. It hypes me up. It makes me feel like I can totally do it. But I really think it is possible. Like you have the tools, you have a great partner, and you have a sounding board. And those are things it just didn't have before.
You vibe code it, you can do it yourself, Whitney. I don't even know that you need anybody. You don't need to go work for anyone. You just need to go work for yourself, right?
It'll be
If
me and like 10 other AIs, but no, I like working with humans, so I would like to have humans on my team.
if you were advising someone today, per your path and the role, the sequential roles that you've had prior to your UX leadership, would you recommend the same path? Given today's landscape, has the landscape changed enough that you suggest something different? I guess it all depends on where they're wanting to be, but let's make an assumption that they like where you are and they want to land in a role that's envisioning experiences. Would you have done it differently, or would you suggest doing it differently?
I'll give a plug to my Medium article where it actually walks through how to plan out your career. So if you follow that, it goes step by step through how to take a look at like where you are today, what skills do you possess, what skill gaps do you have that you need to fill in order to confidently be able to take those next steps? And then how do you create a plan in which you're going to fill those gaps and achieve those things on your career roadmap? I think that you could probably move a lot faster today than I was able to progress through some things, but I think that that approach still works and you could follow that. You don't have to follow my approach. Mine would probably be for someone who is like, I didn't even know about UX until year 3 and then a pivot happened.
I asked this question of all of my guests, and I'm gonna ask this for you to as we close here. If you could redesign one thing in the universe, anything at all, what would it be and why?
Well, both of my parents were public school teachers. And I feel like if I could redesign anything in the world, it would be the American education system and the
Okay.
public education system in general.
Tell me more.
I feel like every student has different learning needs and strengths. And we are now in a day and age in which why can't we provide for our students like the way in which they learn best? And that could help really create a strong, educated society, which ultimately leads to more value. It leads to more innovative output, less crime, more opportunities. If we could just start with improving our education system, then that's what I would love to do.
Sounds like a job for AI, no?
Yeah, maybe that's going to be one of my built to sell moments.
There it is. Although something tells me that's not going to be an MVP to sell. That sounds like scale might be required there. I don't know that you're going to be attracted to that one, Whitney.
No, no, I would just prove a concept and then sell it to someone who's actually going to scale it, not going to just buy it to shut it down.
Right. Well, thank you very much. Thank you for being on the podcast. We've learned a ton, and we'd love to have you back sometime in the future.
Well, thanks for having me. This has been a blast.